Now it's time to break down our final bet before we're joined by Adam Rittenberg to break down Michigan and Washington. Great analysis coming. But Bears and Packers, Green Bay holding steady as a 3-point home favorite at Lambeau. It's down from 3.5. Pretty quick movement on that number, but still was an opener on Sunday night. Total of 44. Mo, this Bears defense has gotten a ton of love, and rightfully so, even if you exclude takeaways. And it was the opposite for Tampa Bay when you look at their defensive production when they don't force turnovers. But even when you exclude takeaways, the Bears rank 4th in EPA per play since week 9, which correlates and goes back to when they got Montez Sweat ahead of the trade deadline. But I know the Bears fans and bettors, I mean, the market has loved Chicago since that juncture when they got Sweat. Justin Fields has been a topic of conversation because do the Bears go with a quarterback at number 1 overall or with one of their 2 first-round picks, top 10 picks in the 2024 NFL draft? But if you look at their offensive production and efficiency since week 11, 20th in EPA per play, 24th in success rate, 24th in yards per play, 20th in touchdown drive rate, and then Justin Fields individually, 31st since week 11 in yards per attempt at 6.3 yards per attempt with a 75.6% adjusted completion percentage. And the Packers are getting healthier defensively, mind you. So I get it. This number may be a little bit inflated just because the Packers are fighting for a playoff spot and the Bears are trying to get revenge after that week 1 blowout loss to Green Bay. But which side do you lean on here? Because I was initially thinking Chicago, but I think the market, while the number may be a little bit inflated, I think the market also may be giving the Bears too much credit, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I could see that for sure, especially with people are excited about Fields. I think it's somewhat rightfully so. He's performing pretty well. But I think at the end of the day, the offense has just been fine. But fine is good when you have a very strong defense, right? You're still a good team at that point. And I mean, I still think this number is too high. I mean, it's crazy because the Bears they've covered literally 6 straight weeks. And I think every single week since Fields came back, they've covered. So clearly the market is not underestimating or not properly rating this team. I think that might finally be at an end. But I think they might be giving the Packers too much credit, man. I mean, the +3s are starting to fade. You might have to hurry if you want that number. I feel like everything was -115 or higher other than I think maybe BetMGM. So that was the last flat 3 I saw earlier. I'm a little bit surprised. I felt like people were going to like the Packers here because of the motivational angle, like you were saying. But maybe people are starting to learn their lesson. I mean, we saw this exact same game last year. Packers at home against divisional opponent. They get smacked by the Lions when nobody pretty much thought that they would, except I definitely love the Lions, so I'm back on it again here.
I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bears are just a solid team. I rank them ahead of the Packers multiple weeks in a row now, including this one, I think, on my power ranking. I mean, I think the Packers are coming off a win that people want to be excited about on national TV where Jordan Love played good. But, now they're playing a real defense and a professional quarterback, which is a major difference from last week. I mean, not saying anything bad about the Vikes defense. They've been very good, but definitely not a professional quarterback that they faced. And then it just, a lot of it, this is kind of similar to the Jags game in the sense of a lot could hinge on these injuries to the receivers. Who is going to come back? Who is going to play? You have Jaden Reed, who has probably been overall the best weapon of any sort that the Packers have this year. I mean, Aaron Jones was a ghost for a lot of the season. He's been just, his stuff after the catch, and even in the running game, when they work him in on the sweep stuff, has been just outstanding. I'm skeptical he's going to play after he left the last game injured. He, I believe, did get a limited practice in. And then you have Christian Watson. I think the same, but yeah, I'm a little skeptical he's going to play too. And we saw last time when he struggled with injuries the entire season. But then on the other side, you have Jalen Johnson. I don't think he's going to play just because, it's a dead season, obviously, for the Bears, and he's not going to want to push it when he wants his next contract. Like, he's already put in a great season. He doesn't need to go out there and prove anything. I don't expect him to go, but so if the Packers receivers go and Johnson doesn't, this could kind of look a little bit ugly. But you still have a Chicago rushing offense that's very, very strong against a Packers defense that has just been atrocious at all levels basically this season. I still think this line shouldn't be 3. I think it should be 2.5. So I still think a little bit of value on the Bears.
And this line, just in terms of the number itself, is kind of similar to me, the way I look at it, at least per my model, with Falcons and Saints, because I make that around Saints -2-ish, a little above 2.5. I make Packers a little lower, around 2.2, 2.3 home favorites. So when you take that into account, there's no real value for me, at least in backing Chicago. I get all of your points make a ton of sense. I just can't get to the window because of the number itself. But also with the Bears schedule, and you touched on this with their rushing attack, if they get into a negative game script, though, like you look at this stretch since week 9, Saints, Panthers, Lions, Vikings, bye week, Lions, Browns, Cardinals, Falcons, all of those games were positive scripts, or at least situation neutral. Falcons last week, they missed 2 field goals. Then the turnovers start to pile up for Atlanta's offense. And speaking of the Falcons, by the way, I do want to wrap with this, at least in terms of our game breakdowns. Taylor Heineke dealing with the ankle injury, and Saints also trying to get revenge on top of the fact they're trying to sneak into the playoffs, whether it's through the NFC South title, if the Bucs lose, or a wild card spot, because they got screwed in that first game when Brad Allen, who screwed over the Lions against the Cowboys with the Taylor Decker 2-point conversion, missed an obvious pass interference call that should have gone against Atlanta, against Alvin Kamara, who is on a route. So we'll see if Kamara plays, but Saints, Panthers, moneyline parlay, or even Falcons Panthers moneyline parlay is an interesting option if you like anyone but the Bucs to win that division. So therefore, Atlanta or New Orleans. Any thoughts, reason to bet a moneyline NFC South moneyline parlay, or am I crazy?
I like the Falcons too, actually. So I'm with you that the line should be south of 3. I was very surprised there was 3.5s on the board earlier in the week. That seems crazy. Those are gone now. I still think 3 is fine for the Falcons, though. I don't view this team as much different than the Saints, like you basically suggested with your 2-point, whatever line. And this team has just been a yo-yo team. Same as the Saints, and Steven and I discussed that, but especially the Saints. I think when you look at basically every time they had a good performance this week, they came out and just took a dump on the field the next week. I mean, it was like every single time this year. Like, you just can't count on any consistency from that team. So I do think the Falcons are going to make a game of this. And yeah, they're obviously still having their own hopes to win the division as well. So ton of motivation on both sides, but I just don't see a lot of difference between those two teams.
But with that said, you have to keep in mind, Heineke, if I had to guess, I would assume he plays. But if he doesn't, then you have Desmond Ridder, who is a turnover machine, and then some. And then the other variable for me, do the Falcons quit on Arthur Smith? I know you're fighting for a playoff spot, so on the surface, you wouldn't expect them to. A lot of pride for these players. Onyemata also should be healthier than he was going back to last week or the last couple weeks. Obviously improves the Falcons' defensive front. Then again, both of these defenses are probably fraudulent overall when you consider that they face the 2 weakest schedules in the NFL. One of the worst, if not the worst division in football. I'm not going to bet this game. 3.5, if I could have snagged that with Atlanta, probably would have been a bet for me, but stay away from me at this number.